Chosen one. Take heart in the reminder from Luke 15:10. There is joy in the presence of the angels when one life turns back toward God. In every quiet decision you make, in every moment of stillness and obedience, heaven is paying attention. It's easy to feel as though your actions go unnoticed by the world. Perhaps in the midst of your struggles, you wonder if anyone sees the sacrifices, the silent battles, and the quiet choices you make to follow God's will. But know this, your every step is noticed by God and the heavenly host. The angels are rejoicing in the unseen victories, the moments when you choose peace over chaos, restraint over reaction, and silence over conflict. This is the unseen realm, responding to your decisions, not just the visible ones that others can see. God sees the heart, the internal battles, and the quiet strength that enables you to stand firm in the face of trials. You are being shaped in ways that may not be celebrated by the world, but heaven recognizes every choice you make in alignment with God's will. These small moments are significant in the spiritual realm, marking your growth and transformation. Small moments with great significance. Chosen one. In the hustle and bustle of life, it's easy to overlook the small moments, those quiet choices that seem insignificant at first glance. Yet, it is in these moments where you almost give in to old habits, where you are faced with temptation, or where you feel the urge to react impulsively, that your greatest spiritual victories are won. These moments, though, unnoticed by others, carry great weight in the unseen realm, and they are considered powerful by heaven. It is often in these quiet, seemingly small acts of obedience that God is most at work in your life. In a world that glorifies big achievements, loud victories, and dramatic moments of success, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that our worth or spiritual growth is measured by visible, grand gestures. We tend to believe that if we're not doing something that others can see, if we're not making bold moves or taking immediate action, then we are not progressing or fulfilling our calling. But God's economy works differently. In God's kingdom, the small moments, the ones that go unnoticed by the world, are often the most significant. Consider the times when you've had the chance to react in anger, to speak out in frustration, or to give in to an old pattern of behavior. It is in those moments when you choose restraint over reaction, silence over conflict, peace over anger, that your true spiritual growth takes place. While the world may value loud responses and quick solutions, heaven values the quiet strength it takes to remain calm, to choose peace, and to trust God's will instead of our own impulsive desires. These quiet moments are spiritual victories. They are battles fought within you that no one else may see, but God sees every one of them. God sees your struggle when you choose to hold your tongue instead of lashing out. He sees your growth when you resist the temptation to fall back into old habits that have held you captive in the past. Each decision to align with God's will, even in the smallest way, is a powerful act of obedience that deepens your relationship with Him and strengthens your character. Think about how often you might have been in a situation where someone said something hurtful, or where circumstances seemed unfair, and the temptation to respond with frustration, anger, or even bitterness was strong. The world may tell you that standing up for yourself in these moments is a victory, but God calls us to a higher standard, to choose peace and to trust that He will fight for us. When you choose to remain silent, to turn the other cheek, or to walk away instead of engaging in conflict, you are choosing God's way over the world's way. And this chosen one is a spiritual victory that has immense value in heaven. These moments of restraint and stillness are often where God's greatest work is happening within you. It's easy to think that growth only happens in the big, noticeable moments. But in truth, spiritual growth happens in the quiet moments when you make the decision to align with God's will instead of reacting according to your own impulses. These decisions shape your character, refine your heart, and prepare you for the bigger purposes that God has in store for you. There are many examples in the Bible where seemingly small acts of obedience resulted in great spiritual victories. Consider the story of David, the young shepherd boy who would one day become king. When David was still a shepherd, he was tasked with guarding the sheep, and there was no glory in his job. He spent his days alone in the fields, protecting his flock from wild animals. However, in one of these quiet moments, when a lion and a bear attacked his sheep, David made the decision to stand up to them and protect the flock. He didn't have a grand audience, no crowd cheering him on. It was just him and the animals. But his courage and obedience to protect what was entrusted to him laid the foundation for his future as a leader of Israel. God saw that small, quiet victory when David stood up to the lion and the bear, and it was in that moment that God was preparing him for the battles that would come later in life, including the monumental battle with Goliath. David's obedience in the small things was the precursor to his ability to trust God in the face of much larger challenges. These moments of faithfulness, though unnoticed by the world, were crucial to David's spiritual development. In the same way, chosen one, you may feel like your current season is one of quiet preparation, where no one is noticing your efforts, where no one sees the battles you are fighting in your heart, but God sees every decision you make to choose peace, to let go of old habits, and to align with His will. These moments are building the foundation for something greater, even if you can't see the end result right now. Your quiet obedience in the unseen moments is shaping your destiny and preparing you for the bigger calling that God has for you. It is also in these moments of stillness that you grow in your trust in God. The world tells you that you must act quickly, that you must take control of every situation. But God calls us to wait, to trust, and to let Him fight the battles for us. When you choose to be still, to resist the urge to take matters into your own hands, you are demonstrating your faith in God's timing and His control over your life. This act of obedience, though quiet and unseen, is powerful and deeply significant in the spiritual realm. In many ways, these small moments of obedience are the true tests of your character. It is easy to show faith when everything is going well, when things are falling into place, and when everyone is cheering you on. But the real measure of your faith comes in the moments when it feels hard, when you are tempted to react or give in, and when no one is watching. In these quiet moments, your obedience to God speaks volumes about your heart's alignment with His will. You are being shaped and refined in ways that no one else can see, but that God is using to prepare you for the next season of your life. Chosen one, take heart in knowing that these small moments are not insignificant. They are the very moments that God is using to mold you, to shape your character, and to prepare you for the future He has planned for you. Heaven is watching, and the angels are rejoicing in the quiet victories that you may feel go unnoticed. You are growing stronger, more obedient, and more aligned with God's will. And those moments of growth will culminate in a future filled with purpose, blessings, and divine favor. Trust that every choice you make, no matter how small, is significant in God's eyes. Your quiet obedience is a testimony of your faith and your willingness to trust God in the unseen. You are being prepared for something greater, and these moments of faithfulness are laying the groundwork for the future He has for you. Keep pressing forward, chosen one, knowing that your obedience, even in the small things, is building a strong foundation for all that God is about to do in your life. The angel's recognition of obedience. Chosen one. While the world often celebrates loud victories and grand accomplishments, heaven places its focus on the quiet, unseen moments of obedience. The angels are not merely witnessing dramatic, visible miracles or the momentous acts of faith that others can see. They are deeply moved by your quiet decisions, the ones that go unnoticed by most, but are significant in the spiritual realm. Heaven is attentive to every moment when you choose to align with God's will, even in the smallest decisions that no one else may see. The angels as ministering spirits. Hebrews 1:14 are watching and rejoicing in your obedience to God, even when the world doesn't acknowledge the effort or sacrifice. In the hustle of life, it is easy to forget that every choice you make, whether it's choosing silence instead of retaliation, restraint instead of impulse, peace instead of conflict, matters in the eyes of heaven. You might feel that your quiet obedience, those moments where no one is cheering you on, are insignificant. But heaven sees them all. Each time you decide to follow God's way instead of your own, you are making a mark in the spiritual realm. The angels are aware of the battles you fight within your heart, and they celebrate your decisions to choose God's will over your own desires. We often think of obedience as something grand and visible when we step out in faith, when we share our testimony, or when we lead others in the ways of God. But true obedience is not only displayed in public acts. The real test of your heart often comes in private, in those quiet moments where the choice to obey God is entirely yours and often goes unseen by others. God is deeply pleased by these acts of obedience as they reveal the depth of your faith and trust in Him. The angels, as ministering spirits, are assigned to serve and assist you in your journey. They recognize your dedication, your commitment, and your growth as you continue to choose God's will, even when it is difficult. The Bible teaches that the angels do not simply watch over us from a distance. They are actively involved in the spiritual process of growth. They rejoice when you make decisions that honor God, just as Luke 15:10 reminds us. There is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Similarly, every time you choose to walk in obedience to God's will, Whether in a big decision or a small, seemingly insignificant moment, the angels rejoice and give glory to God for the transformation happening in your life. When we think about obedience, we often picture the major acts of faith, whether it's moving to a new place because God called you, stepping into a new ministry, or making a bold decision that aligns with your faith. But the quiet obedience, the decision to hold back a harsh word, to wait instead of rushing ahead, to surrender a desire for control, are just as significant in the eyes of heaven. These are the moments when your spiritual maturity is proven, and the angels are keenly aware of the growth that is taking place in your heart. Heaven is celebrating your quiet victories, because in them you are becoming more like Christ, who was marked by obedience, even in the face of great personal sacrifice. One of the most powerful examples of this can be found in the life of Jesus. Jesus, though the Son of God, demonstrated the most profound obedience in the small, often unnoticed moments of his life. His obedience was not just in his public ministry or his sacrifice on the cross. It was also in his willingness to obey God in every aspect of his daily life. Even when he was tired, when the crowds were overwhelming, or when the temptation to act out of his own will was strong, Jesus submitted to God's plan. He chose to obey even when it wasn't easy, even when the cost was high. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed, "Not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22:42. This prayer, uttered in the quiet of the night, was a moment of profound obedience that heaven recognized and celebrated. The angels saw this moment as a turning point in human history, the act of obedience that would lead to the salvation of all. In your life, chosen one, the angels recognize your moments of surrender. Every time you choose God's will over your own, even in small things, you are honoring Him. The angels witness the decisions you make in private, whether it's resisting the urge to gossip, choosing forgiveness over resentment, or trusting God's timing over your impatience. Heaven does not look at these moments as insignificant. They are the moments that prove your faithfulness, and they are the moments that prepare you for the bigger callings God has for your life. The message here is clear. Obedience is not measured by what others can see. Heaven's recognition comes in the quiet, unseen moments when you choose God's will. Despite the world's pressure, when you decide to honor God, even when no one else is watching. These small acts of obedience are just as important as the visible acts of faith, and they are just as significant in your spiritual journey. The angels are cheering you on, not because of the grand things you've accomplished, but because they see your heart. They see your dedication to God's will, your willingness to wait, to listen, and to obey. They understand that true spiritual growth happens in the quiet moments when you choose restraint, peace, and obedience in the face of challenges. When you choose to follow God's plan, heaven takes notice. The angels are moved by your willingness to obey, and in that obedience, they see the strength of your faith. Every small moment of obedience is laying the foundation for the greater purpose God has for you. As you continue to choose God's will, in the quiet moments, He is preparing you for the bigger assignments, the greater victories, and the abundant blessings He has in store. The angels rejoice because they know that each moment of obedience brings you closer to fulfilling your divine destiny. Chosen one, continue to walk in obedience, even in the small, unseen moments. Trust that your choices matter deeply in heaven, and that every act of obedience is shaping your future and bringing you closer to the person God created you to be. The angels are watching, cheering you on, and rejoicing in the steps you take to follow God's will, knowing that each step brings you closer to the divine purpose He has ordained for your life. Your quiet obedience is a testimony of your faith, and heaven recognizes it with great joy. The power of restraint and stillness. Chosen one in life. There are moments when you will be tempted to act to defend yourself or to resolve situations in your own way. These moments will often be filled with pressure. Pressure to act quickly, to speak your mind, or to fix things that seem broken. It's in these moments that God calls you to resist the urge to take matters into your own hands and instead remain still. Restraint and stillness are not signs of weakness. They are acts of faith and obedience, demonstrating that you trust God to handle the situation in His perfect timing. In a world that encourages instant action, immediate responses, and quick results, it can feel unnatural to pause, to wait, or to be still. But God is inviting you to step away from the noise and chaos, to trust that His plan is unfolding even in the stillness. There is a quiet strength in waiting, a deep trust in God's sovereignty that allows you to rest knowing that He is in control. In Psalm 46:10, God says, "Be still and know that I am God." The instruction to be still is not just about physical rest. It is about spiritual surrender and trust. It's about recognizing that even when we can't see the way forward, God is at work. Stillness is a posture of trust, a refusal to allow the chaos of life to push us into hasty decisions or impulsive actions. In these moments, God invites us to rest in His presence, knowing that He is the one who fights for us and leads us. The story of Moses and the Israelites at the Red Sea provides a powerful example of the power of restraint and stillness. When the Israelites found themselves trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's advancing army, fear and panic set in. They saw no way out, and the temptation to act, to fight back, or to flee was strong. Yet God told them, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Exodus 14:14. In that moment of intense pressure, God was calling the Israelites to trust Him, to refrain from acting in fear or desperation, and to wait for His intervention. This moment of stillness was crucial to the Israelites' deliverance. As they stood still, God parted the Red Sea, making a way where there seemed to be none. If they had rushed forward in fear, they would have missed the miracle that God was about to perform. By obeying God's call to remain still, they made space for God to act in ways that would bring about their deliverance. The stillness was not inactivity, it was obedience. It was a declaration that they trusted God to handle their situation, and that in His perfect timing, He would provide a way through. Similarly, chosen one, when you face challenges or uncertainty, God is calling you to remain still. You may feel the urge to act, to take matters into your own hands and fix the situation on your own terms. But God is asking you to pause, to listen to His voice, and to wait for His guidance. Resisting the urge to rush or manipulate situations is an act of obedience. It is in these moments of stillness that God is preparing you for what is ahead, working behind the scenes to bring about His perfect plan. The power of restraint and stillness also lies in the ability to trust God's timing. When things feel slow, when doors seem closed, or when you feel like progress is halted, it can be easy to become frustrated or anxious. You might wonder why things aren't moving as quickly as you expected, or why God is not answering your prayers as fast as you hoped. But in these moments, God is teaching you to trust that His timing is always perfect. In 2 Peter 3:8-9, we are reminded that, with the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. God's timing doesn't operate on human schedules. When it feels like things are delayed, or that you are falling behind, trust that God is using this time to prepare you for something greater. The stillness you are experiencing is part of His divine plan to align you with the right opportunities and the right moments. Stillness is not a sign that God is absent. In fact, it is often in these moments of quiet that God is doing some of His most important work in your life. Just as a seed takes time to grow underground before it breaks through the soil, so too does God's work in your life require time to prepare. You may not see the growth happening immediately, but trust that God is nurturing you in ways that are unseen. The waiting is essential for your spiritual maturity, and it is in these moments of stillness that you are being shaped and prepared for the future that God has planned for you. The temptation to act quickly often arises from fear of missing out, fear of being left behind, or fear of not achieving what you desire. But God is calling you to trust that He has a plan far greater than anything you could accomplish on your own. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." In times of uncertainty, or when the pressure to act is high, choose to trust God instead of relying on your own understanding. His ways are higher than ours, and His plan will always lead to peace, fulfillment, and divine purpose. Furthermore, the power of restraint and stillness also demonstrates a deep sense of spiritual maturity. In times of waiting, you are learning patience, perseverance, and trust. These virtues are not developed overnight. They are shaped in the quiet moments when you choose to trust God, even when you cannot see the way forward. You are becoming spiritually strong, learning to rely on God's wisdom and timing instead of your own strength or timing. It is also important to remember that stillness is not about passivity. God is not calling you to sit idly by and do nothing. Stillness in this context means listening, praying, seeking God's guidance, and being open to His leading. It is a time of active waiting, trusting, learning, and preparing for the next step. As you wait, God is shaping your heart and teaching you how to rely on His strength. He is using this season to prepare you to step into the fullness of your calling when the time is right. The final lesson in the power of restraint and stillness is that this period of waiting is not wasted time. Every moment you spend in stillness is a moment of preparation. Every decision to resist acting out of fear or impatience is a moment of growth. God is doing something powerful in you that will only be revealed in His perfect timing. Trust that the stillness is part of His divine plan, and when the time is right, He will reveal His plan for you in ways that will leave you in awe of His goodness and faithfulness. Chosen one resists the urge to rush ahead. Trust that God is using this season of stillness to prepare you for what's to come. When the time is right, He will open doors, guide your steps, and lead you into your destiny. The stillness you experience now is not a time of inactivity. It is a time of divine preparation and spiritual growth. Embrace it. Trust God's timing and rest in the peace that comes from knowing that He is working on your behalf. The best is yet to come, and the waiting will be worth it. The false urgency of the world. Chosen one. You may be facing an overwhelming sense of urgency in your life right now. The world constantly pushes us to act quickly, to make decisions in a rush, and to take immediate action on everything. We are told that time is always running out, that we need to prove ourselves, or that if we don't seize every opportunity as it comes, we might miss our chance. This pressure can create a false urgency, making you feel like you need to rush forward, take control, and make things happen before they slip away. However, the message God is giving you today is to resist this rush. The urgency you feel is not of Him, and it's a temptation to move ahead of His perfect timing. The world thrives on hurry. Everywhere you look, people are rushing to achieve more, to make quick decisions, to gain success as fast as possible. Social media advertisements and society at large push us to do more to be more and to get more now. This constant push to act and achieve can create a false sense of urgency, leading you to believe that you must act quickly or miss out on something important. But chosen one, God is calling you to slow down, to pause, and to wait for His guidance. He is not in the business of rushing things or making hasty decisions. His timing is perfect, and there is no need to panic. One of the greatest dangers of this false urgency is that it often leads to impulsive decisions. In moments when the pressure to act feels intense, we may feel compelled to make choices without taking the necessary time to pray, discern, and seek God's will. We can convince ourselves that it's better to make a decision quickly than to wait and risk missing an opportunity. But these hurried decisions can often lead to regret, misalignment with God's purpose, and unnecessary detours in our lives. God is teaching you, chosen one, to resist the rush and trust that He is working behind the scenes. While the world says hurry up, God is saying wait. Waiting does not mean you are stuck or wasting time. It is a time of divine preparation. There are things that need to fall into place before you can move forward. Trust that God's plan is unfolding in ways that you cannot yet see. The waiting period may seem long, and the pressure to act may be overwhelming. But know that in God's perfect timing, everything will come together. The story of Abraham and Sarah provides a powerful example of the dangers of rushing ahead of God's plan. God promised Abraham that he would be the father of many nations. But years passed, and Abraham and Sarah remained childless. In their impatience and fear of missing out on God's promise, they decided to take matters into their own hands. Sarah suggested that Abraham have a child with her maidservant Hagar in an effort to fulfill God's promise. While this may have seemed like a logical solution, at the time it was not God's plan. The result was the birth of Ishmael. And although Ishmael was a blessing, he was not the child of promise. God had already promised to Abraham and Sarah that they would have a son, Isaac, but their decision to rush ahead and act outside of God's timing caused complications and heartache. God did fulfill his promise, but it came in his perfect timing. Isaac, the child of promise, was born to Abraham and Sarah when it seemed impossible. The waiting period was essential for God's plan to unfold the way it was meant to. Had Abraham and Sarah rushed ahead and taken matters into their own hands, they would have missed the fullness of God's promise. Similarly, chosen one, when you face a situation where the pressure to act is intense, remember that God is in control. The rush to act may seem overwhelming, but it is essential to pause to pray and to trust that God's timing is perfect. Impulsive decisions often lead to regret, while waiting on God brings peace, clarity, and alignment with His will. Your patience in this season of waiting will be rewarded, and in the end, you will see that God's timing was far better than anything you could have forced. In the book of Ecclesiastes, we are reminded that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3:1. God has set a perfect time for everything in your life. His timing is never late or early. It is always exactly when it needs to be. The waiting you are experiencing is not punishment, it is preparation. While the world rushes and pushes, God calls you to be still and trust that His plan is unfolding in its own time. The false urgency of the world can often make us feel like we are behind or missing out on something. You may feel like everyone around you is moving ahead, achieving their goals, and finding success. But chosen one, remember that your journey is unique, and God's timing for you is not the same as anyone else's. Just because others seem to be moving forward doesn't mean that you are falling behind. Trust that God is preparing you for something incredible, and when the time is right, everything will fall into place. In the story of David, we see another example of God's perfect timing. David was anointed as the future king of Israel, but he didn't immediately take the throne. In fact, he spent many years waiting, fleeing from King Saul, and enduring difficult circumstances. There were moments when David could have taken matters into his own hands and seized the throne, but he trusted God's timing. When the time was right, God elevated David to the throne, and he became one of the greatest kings in Israel's history. Had David rushed ahead and tried to take the throne prematurely, he would have missed out on the blessings and wisdom that God was cultivating in him during the waiting period. Chosen one. The world may pressure you to move quickly, to act without hesitation. But God's plan for you is not about rushing. It is about waiting on His perfect timing and trusting that He is working everything out for your good. In those moments when the world is telling you to hurry up, take a step back, seek God's guidance, and trust that He is preparing you for what's to come. Your stillness is not wasted. It is a crucial part of your journey. As you resist the false urgency of the world, you will find that God's peace fills the space of waiting. His timing is always perfect, and when the time comes for you to move forward, you will do so with clarity, confidence, and alignment with His will. Trust that your waiting season is not in vain, and that God is preparing you for something far greater than you could have achieved by rushing ahead. The best is yet to come. Chosen one, and God's perfect timing will reveal it all in due season. Understanding God's timing. Chosen one. When you find yourself in a season of waiting, it's easy to feel as though time is slipping away. You may look around at the people in your life who seem to be moving ahead, achieving their goals, and stepping into new opportunities. In these moments, it can be tempting to feel like you're falling behind, that you're not progressing as quickly as you should be, or that you've missed your chance. However, God's timing is never late. While it may seem like others are moving faster or reaching milestones that you long for, God is orchestrating everything in your life with precision, and what He has for you is coming at the perfect moment. Understanding God's timing requires a shift in perspective. It's a mindset that trusts His divine order and plans rather than trying to force things to happen according to our own schedule. God doesn't operate on human timelines. His sense of timing is not bound by the clock, and His plans are not dictated by the world's standards. He is outside of time, and He knows exactly when each part of His plan should unfold in your life. Trusting His timing is a lesson in patience, faith, and surrender. It requires you to let go of control and trust that God is always working for your good. When you feel like you're waiting too long, it's important to remember that waiting does not mean you are stagnant or that nothing is happening. It is often in these seasons of stillness that God is doing the most important work. While you wait, He is preparing you for what's next, aligning the circumstances and events of your life to bring about His perfect will. In the waiting, God is also working in your heart, teaching you patience, perseverance, and trust. He is deepening your relationship with Him, helping you to rely on His strength and wisdom rather than your own. Consider the example of the Israelites as they wandered in the wilderness. God promised them a land flowing with milk and honey, a place of abundance and blessing. However, before they could enter the promised land, they had to go through a time of preparation. The wilderness journey was not an accident. It was a part of God's plan. During their time in the wilderness, God taught them how to rely on Him, how to trust in His provision, and how to be obedient to His commands. What seemed like a delay, a period of wandering, was actually a time of preparation for the greater blessing that awaited them. Just as the Israelites had to wait for the right time to enter the promised land, you too are in a season of preparation. The waiting may feel frustrating, but trust that God is working behind the scenes. His timing is always perfect, and what He is preparing for you is worth the wait. When the time comes for you to move forward, you will do so with a heart that is ready and equipped for the blessings and challenges ahead. The waiting period is not wasted. It is a time of refinement, growth, and trust in God's sovereignty. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, we are reminded that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. God has set a perfect time for each moment in your life. His timing is not arbitrary. It is intentional and purposeful. He knows exactly when you need to step into a new opportunity, when you need to make a decision, and when it's time for you to take action. Your life is not random, and neither are the delays you may be experiencing. God is orchestrating everything for your good, and He is leading you into the next phase of your destiny at just the right time. It can be difficult to trust God's timing, especially when it feels like the world is moving at a faster pace. But chosen one, you must remember that God's way is always better than our own. His perspective is perfect, and He sees the end from the beginning. What may seem like a delay to you is actually God working in ways that are far beyond your understanding. The waiting is not a sign that God has forgotten about you or that His promises are delayed. It is a sign that He is working out everything for your good. Take, for example, the story of Joseph. God gave Joseph dreams of greatness, but the journey to his destiny was far from immediate. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. From a human perspective, Joseph's life seemed like a series of setbacks. Yet each of these experiences was part of God's plan to prepare Joseph for the role he would one day play in Egypt. In time, Joseph was promoted to a position of great power and influence, and his dreams were fulfilled. But the journey took time. God's timing was perfect, and Joseph's trust in God, even in the midst of hardship, allowed him to fulfill his purpose in due season. Joseph's story teaches us that delays are not denials. God's promises are not thwarted by time or circumstances. What God has spoken over your life will come to pass, but it will happen in His time. The season of waiting is a time for you to grow in faith, trust, and patience. It is in the waiting that God is preparing you to handle the blessings and responsibilities that are coming your way. When the time is right, you will step into your purpose with confidence, knowing that God's plan for your life is unfolding perfectly. Another example of God's perfect timing can be found in the life of Esther. Esther was an orphan who, by God's providence, became queen of Persia. Her rise to power was not immediate. It was part of God's divine timing. At the appointed time, Esther found herself in a position to save her people from destruction. She had to wait for the right moment to act. And when that moment came, she stepped forward with courage and obedience. The waiting period was not wasted. It was a time of preparation, both for Esther's heart and for the kingdom she would one day serve in your own life. Chosen one, you are being prepared for something great. You may not see the fullness of God's plan yet, but trust that His timing is perfect. Every season, every delay, and every moment of waiting is a part of His divine plan to bring you to the place where He wants you to be. Your waiting is not a sign of God's absence. It is a sign of His careful preparation and protection. You are exactly where you need to be. And when the time comes for you to move forward, you will do so with confidence, knowing that God's plan is unfolding exactly as it should. The fear of falling behind or missing out is real. But chosen one, you are not behind. You are right where God wants you to be. His timing is not dictated by the clock or the world's expectations. It is perfect and precise. Trust in His timing. Trust in His process and rest in the peace that comes from knowing that God is working in your life. When the time is right, He will move you forward into the next phase of your destiny, and you will see that the waiting was worth it. The best is yet to come, and it will come at the perfect time. The preparation of the heart. Chosen one, in this season of stillness and waiting, God is doing a deep work within you. This is a time not only for external opportunities and blessings to align, but for your heart to be prepared for the things God is about to bring into your life. It's easy to focus on the external circumstances and feel as though nothing is happening. Perhaps you are waiting for a job, a relationship, or a breakthrough in a particular area of life. But what God is truly doing in this time of waiting is preparing your heart for what lies ahead. Often, when we find ourselves in a waiting season, it's because God is making us ready for something much bigger than we can see. You may feel like you're in a holding pattern, but in reality, God is shaping and refining your heart, your character, and your trust in Him. The external circumstances may not have changed, but internally, God is doing something powerful. He is preparing you for the blessings and opportunities that are coming, and this preparation is just as important as any visible breakthrough. Think of how a tree grows. At first, the roots are the most important part of the tree's development. You don't see the roots growing deeper into the earth, but that is where the tree's stability comes from. The deeper the roots, the stronger the tree will stand in the face of storms. In the same way, God is deepening the roots of your faith, your character, and your trust in Him during this waiting period. The foundation He is building now will allow you to stand firm when the storms of life come. You may not see it happening immediately, but the preparation of your heart is happening in the unseen. In the Bible, we see countless examples of God preparing the hearts of His chosen people before they stepped into their divine destinies. One such example is David. Before he was crowned king, he spent years as a shepherd. He wasn't on the battlefield leading armies or sitting on a throne. Instead, he was learning the lessons of leadership, humility, and dependence on God while tending to sheep. God was preparing David's heart for the responsibility of leading a nation. David's time in the wilderness wasn't wasted. It was a time of refinement, a time when he was learning to trust God and rely on Him, even when no one was watching. David's story teaches us that the waiting period is often a season of preparation. God knew that David needed to grow in character, humility, and faith before he could take on the weight of the crown. Similarly, in your own life, God is preparing your heart for the responsibilities, blessings, and challenges that lie ahead. You may feel like you are not moving forward, but in reality, God is using this time to build your character, strengthen your resolve, and deepen your trust in Him. Another example is the story of Esther. Before she became queen and saved her people, Esther underwent months of preparation. She didn't immediately step into the role of a leader. Instead, she was refined in a process that involved spiritual preparation, humility, and learning how to be still and listen to God's voice. During this time, she was learning how to navigate the pressures of her position, understanding the weight of her responsibilities, and relying on God for guidance. It was in this season of preparation that Esther's heart was made ready for the monumental task God had called her to. She learned to trust God's timing and to use her influence for His purposes. In the same way, God is preparing your heart in this waiting season. He is teaching you how to trust His timing, how to rely on His wisdom, and how to submit to His plan. This season may feel like a period of inactivity, but it is actually one of the most important times in your journey. God is shaping you, refining you, and preparing you for what He has in store. He is building your spiritual muscles, teaching you patience, and growing your faith. One of the ways God prepares our hearts during times of stillness is by refining our character. The waiting period often brings to the surface areas of our hearts that need healing, areas where we still struggle with impatience, insecurity, or fear. These struggles are not something to be ashamed of, but rather opportunities for God to work in our lives. When we allow God to reveal these areas, we open ourselves up to His healing power. He is teaching us how to surrender our weaknesses to Him, trusting that He will make us strong in our areas of vulnerability. This preparation also involves teaching us to rely on God, not on our own understanding or strength. In the waiting, you may find that you have to rely on God more than you ever have before. You may feel weak, tired, or uncertain, but it is in these moments that God is teaching you to lean into Him more deeply. He is showing you that your strength does not come from your own efforts, but from His power and grace. As your trust in Him grows, so does your ability to face challenges with confidence and peace. Another critical aspect of the preparation of your heart is learning patience. In a world that values instant results and quick solutions, waiting can feel like a burden. But patience is a virtue that is cultivated in the stillness, in the moments when you feel like nothing is happening. God is using this waiting season to teach you how to wait with grace, to trust that He is working even when you cannot see it. This patience is not a passive waiting, but an active trust that God is moving even when you cannot feel it. The Bible tells us in James 5:7, "Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains." Just like the farmer waits for the right season to harvest, God is teaching you to wait for the right season to receive the blessings He has in store for you. As your heart is being prepared, God is also helping you to see things through His perspective. In the waiting, He is shifting your focus from the immediate desires or goals to the bigger picture of what He is doing in your life. Your, your priorities are being refined and your heart is being tuned to God's will. You are learning to see the world through His eyes, recognizing that the things that matter most are the things of eternal value: love, faith, and obedience. This spiritual growth is not always easy, but it is necessary for the fulfillment of your divine purpose. Chosen one. Remember that this season of stillness is not a time of inactivity or wasted time. It is a time of preparation, refinement, and growth. God is working in you in ways that you may not immediately see, but trust that every moment of waiting is shaping you for what is to come. As you wait, allow God to prepare your heart. Let Him refine your character, strengthen your trust in Him, and deepen your faith. When the time is right, you will be fully prepared to step into the fullness of His plan for your life, equipped with the wisdom, patience, and strength needed to fulfill your calling. This season of stillness is preparing you for something greater, and it will be worth the wait. The power of spiritual growth and discernment. Chosen. One of the most powerful aspects of your journey in the stillness and waiting season is the spiritual growth that is taking place within you. While you may feel as though nothing is moving or that you are stuck, the truth is that God is doing deep transformative work in your heart. Through this period of quiet, you are becoming more spiritually discerning, more attuned to God's voice, and more aware of the subtle ways that the enemy tries to distract or pull you off course. This is not a passive season. It is one of deep spiritual growth and sharpening. The process of spiritual growth during a waiting period is often marked by moments of quiet reflection, testing, and refinement. It is in the stillness that God cultivates spiritual discernment, the ability to distinguish His voice from the noise of the world, to recognize His will in the midst of confusion, and to say no to the distractions that would seek to pull you away from His path. As you grow in your ability to discern God's will, you also become more sensitive to the things in your life that may not align with His purpose for you. This period of spiritual growth is about more than just gaining knowledge. It is about learning to live in a way that is completely aligned with God's will. You are being shaped into someone who can hear God's voice more clearly, who can discern the right path, even when it seems unclear, and who is able to recognize and avoid the subtle distractions that may pull you off course. This process is a deepening of your relationship with God and a transformation of your heart and mind. Spiritual growth is not always an easy process. It often requires surrendering your own desires and plans in exchange for God's will. There may be times when you feel frustrated, confused, or even disheartened by the lack of visible progress. But understand that God is refining you in ways that are often invisible. He is working on your heart, preparing you to step into the fullness of His purpose for your life. This period of waiting is shaping you into a person who can handle the blessings and responsibilities that are coming. One of the primary ways God grows our spiritual discernment is through the lessons He teaches us in the quiet moments of life. It is in these moments when we are tempted to take matters into our own hands, to rush ahead, or to react in our own strength that God teaches us to rely on His guidance. We learn often through trial and error to recognize the promptings of the Holy Spirit and to distinguish them from the voice of fear, the enemy's lies, or our own desires. This ability to discern is crucial for your journey ahead, as it will guide you in making decisions that align with God's will and help you avoid pitfalls that the enemy may try to lead you into. In the Bible, we see the importance of discernment in the life of Jesus. He was constantly discerning the motives of those around him, distinguishing between those who were truly seeking the truth and those who were only interested in their own agendas. Jesus had the ability to see beyond the surface and into the hearts of people, recognizing the spiritual needs they had and speaking directly to those needs. His ability to discern the true intentions of others was a vital part of his ministry and purpose on earth. In the same way, God is teaching you to develop this kind of discernment where you can see beyond the surface and recognize what is truly of God and what is not. As you grow in spiritual discernment, you will also become more aware of the things in your life that may be pulling you off course. The enemy often works in subtle ways, trying to distract, confuse, and lead us away from God's purpose. It is in these moments of stillness that God helps you to see the lies of the enemy and the subtle distractions that are meant to derail you. These distractions may come in the form of unhealthy relationships, temptations, or situations that seem harmless at first, but are actually leading you away from God's best for you. God's discernment allows you to see these things for what they truly are and to make decisions that keep you aligned with His will. Discernment also empowers you to recognize the right opportunities and to say no to the things that are not part of God's plan. The world is full of distractions, all vying for your attention and time. There are many good things that you could pursue, but not all of them are the right things. God is teaching you to recognize which opportunities are truly from Him and which ones are merely distractions or temptations disguised as blessings. In the waiting period, God is giving you the wisdom to make choices that align with His purpose for your life. This clarity will guide you as you move forward into the next season of your destiny. As you grow in your ability to discern, you will also grow in your spiritual maturity. Maturity in Christ is not measured by outward success or accomplishments, but by your ability to make decisions that reflect God's character and will. It is in the quiet moments of obedience, the times when you resist temptation, when you choose peace over conflict, and when you trust God instead of rushing ahead, that your spiritual maturity is revealed. The growth you are experiencing in this season is preparing you for the greater purpose God has in store for you. You are being shaped into someone who is not only able to discern God's will, but who is also able to live it out with grace, patience, and faithfulness. The quiet periods of growth that you are experiencing right now are preparing you to walk into your destiny with greater wisdom, strength, and clarity. You are being refined and transformed so that you can handle the blessings and responsibilities that God has for you. The distractions that once easily pulled you off course will no longer have the same power over you, and you will be able to make decisions with confidence, knowing that you are aligned with God's perfect plan. Chosen one, continue to embrace this season of spiritual growth and discernment. Trust that God is refining you, shaping you, and preparing you for something greater. The quiet moments of waiting, the times of stillness, and the moments of obedience that may seem small to others are having a powerful impact in the spiritual realm. Heaven is rejoicing in your growth, and the angels are watching with joy as you grow in wisdom and discernment. Keep pressing forward, knowing that God is with you every step of the way, and He is preparing you for the beautiful future that awaits. The reward of obedience and the coming blessing. Chosen one, as you walk through this season of waiting, it may feel like nothing is happening, and the promises you have been holding on to seem distant and unattainable. However, the truth is that God sees every moment of your obedience, every step you take in trust and faith, and every sacrifice you make in the quiet of your heart. While the world may not celebrate the small decisions, God is taking note of your faithfulness, and He is preparing to reward you in ways that you cannot yet imagine. The season of stillness, though difficult, is not a time of loss. It is a time of preparation for the blessings and breakthroughs that are coming your way. In a world that values instant results and immediate gratification, it is easy to become discouraged when things do not seem to happen on our timeline. But God's timing is not bound by our schedules. His ways are higher than ours, and He sees the bigger picture of what He is doing in your life. Every moment of obedience, even in the waiting, is laying the foundation for the greater blessings that are ahead. Your obedience, though it may feel unnoticed or insignificant at times, is never wasted. It is being recorded in heaven, and it will not go unrewarded. The Bible teaches us that obedience to God leads to blessings that go far beyond anything we could achieve on our own. In Deuteronomy 28, 1-2, God promises, "If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all His commands, all these blessings will come upon you and accompany you." This promise of blessings is not just for the future, but for the here and now. As you remain faithful to God's calling and trust in His timing, the blessings that come from your obedience will unfold in ways that surprise and encourage you. One of the most profound truths about God's blessings is that they are not just material or external. They are deeply spiritual and eternal. The reward of your obedience is not only found in the things you can touch and see, but in the deepening of your relationship with God, the peace that comes from trusting Him, and the strength you gain as you continue to walk in His will. The rewards that God has for you are far greater than any temporary satisfaction the world could offer. Consider the story of Abraham. God promised him that he would be the father of many nations, but Abraham had to wait for many years before that promise was fulfilled. There were times when it seemed like God's promise would never come to pass. But through every trial, every delay, and every moment of uncertainty, Abraham remained faithful. He trusted God even when the circumstances seemed impossible. And in the end, God's promise was fulfilled in a way that surpassed Abraham's expectations. The birth of Isaac was not only a fulfillment of God's promise, but a testimony of Abraham's obedience, trust, and faith. His obedience to God was rewarded with the blessings of a nation and a legacy that would impact generations to come. Similarly, chosen one, God is preparing to reward your obedience. The waiting season you are in is not a time of stagnation. It is a time of preparation for the blessings that are coming. The choices you make to trust God, to wait on His timing, and to remain faithful, even when the path ahead is unclear, are all building the foundation for the future that God has prepared for you. The reward for your obedience will not be small. It will be a blessing that exceeds anything you could have imagined. God will surprise you with opportunities, breakthroughs, and blessings that will leave no room for doubt that He has been at work in your life. But the greatest reward of obedience is not found in the external blessings, but in the transformation that happens within you. As you walk in obedience, you are being refined, shaped, and prepared to handle the blessings that God will bring. The obedience you are demonstrating now is shaping your heart to receive the fullness of what God has for you. He is preparing you spiritually, emotionally, and mentally for the greater things that are coming. In Romans 8:28, we are reminded that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Your obedience is part of God's greater plan, and He is working everything out for your good. The blessings that will come as a result of your obedience will not only impact your life, but will ripple out to those around you. Your faithfulness is a testimony to others of God's goodness, and through your obedience, others will be drawn closer to Him. There may be moments when you question whether your obedience is making a difference. The world may not recognize your efforts, and the waiting can feel frustrating. But God sees your heart, and He is proud of the choices you are making in the quiet moments. When you choose to remain faithful, to wait on God's timing, and to trust that His plan is better than your own, you are making an eternal impact. God is using your obedience to prepare you for something far greater than you can imagine. The reward of obedience is not only about receiving blessings, but also about experiencing the fullness of God's presence. As you continue to obey Him, you will experience a deeper intimacy with God, a greater sense of peace, and a stronger relationship with Him. The reward is not just what you receive, but who you become in the process. You are being transformed into the person God created you to be, someone who reflects His love, His grace, and His purpose in the world. Chosen one. As you step into the next phase of your journey, trust that the reward for your obedience is on the horizon. The waiting season is not a time of delay. It is a time of preparation for the blessings that are coming. What seemed like a time of holding back will turn into a time of breakthrough and divine favor. Keep trusting God. Keep walking in obedience, and know that He is working all things for your good. Your obedience will be rewarded in ways that will leave you in awe of His faithfulness, and those who doubted you will see the fruit of your trust in God. The best is yet to come, and as you continue to honor God with your life, you will see His promises unfold in powerful ways. Your obedience today is setting the stage for the blessings of tomorrow. Trust in God's perfect plan, and know that the reward for your faithfulness is greater than anything you could have imagined. The waiting will be worth it, and the blessings will be more than you could have hoped for. Chosen one, you are being reminded today that your stillness has never been a sign of failure or being left behind. In fact, it has been a crucial part of God's divine process to prepare you for something greater. While the world may value immediate action and visible progress, God sees your stillness as an act of obedience and trust. In these quiet moments, you are not stagnant. You are being refined, strengthened, and positioned for the next phase of your journey. What may have seemed like waiting is actually a time of powerful spiritual growth, where God has been working behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet understand. Trust that He is doing more than you can see, and that the preparation you are undergoing is preparing you for the extraordinary plans He has in store for you. Remember, chosen one, that God is always faithful to His promises. You are not forgotten, and though you may not see it yet, your breakthrough is coming. Every moment you have spent waiting, every decision you've made to trust God has been part of His larger plan to elevate you to the place He has prepared. God's promises are unwavering, and He is working all things together for your good. What feels like a season of delay is actually a season of divine preparation. Trust that God will fulfill His promises to you. And when the breakthrough comes, it will be more than worth the wait. As you move forward, chosen one, let your heart be filled with hope and excitement. God has great things in store for you. Your obedience, though it may have seemed unnoticed, will be richly rewarded. The reward will be far greater than anything you could have imagined. Keep trusting in God's perfect timing and know that your faithfulness is setting the stage for blessings that will surprise and uplift you. The waiting is over, and what God has planned for you will be revealed in His perfect time. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your perfect timing and for the grace you've given me in this season of stillness. I trust that you are working behind the scenes, preparing me for what is to come. Please strengthen my spirit and give me the wisdom to continue trusting you, even when I feel like I'm falling behind or when others are moving ahead. Help me to stay obedient and patient, knowing that you are refining me for something greater. I choose to trust your timing and your plan. Thank you for your faithfulness and for the blessings that are on their way. In Jesus' name, amen.